The US is investigating Nvidia for antitrust. Intel is potentially facing a class action lawsuit and just firing everybody. And looks like we might have some AMD pricing information on their next CPUs and a ton of other information today. Let's circle back around and start out with the US launches antitrust probe into Nvidia over sales practices. So I'm seeing this from Reuters. Let's dig in a little bit. What is this all about? It looks like the US Department of Justice has launched an investigation into Nvidia after complaints from competitors that it may have abused its market dominance in selling chips that power artificial intelligence. So it looks like this is over the AI space rather than, gaming graphics cards and all of that. And it does look like Nvidia's stock prices did fall a bit after this announcement. So it's looking into whether Nvidia has pressured cloud providers to buy multiple products, citing people involved in these discussions. It's also looking into whether Nvidia charges its customers more for networking gear if they want to buy AI chips from rivals such as AMD or Intel. And Nvidia is commanding roughly 80% of the AI chip market. So basically the idea is it's looking at, is Nvidia kind of punishing customers who work with AMD or Intel by charging more or giving them worse deals when they do buy from Nvidia. Again, this is an investigation. This isn't proved. Now, this is the US launching an investigation. If this sounds familiar, it's because we had already seen reports of Nvidia's offices being raided by French competition authority a while back. So not the first time Nvidia is being investigated in their AI dominant position. We'll have to see what comes of it. In other Nvidia-related news, we're seeing that apparently Nvidia may be facing RTX 4070 supply shortages in China next month. Well, I guess this month now, because we just started August, didn't we? But why? Due to a lack of GDDR6X memory, apparently. And could that have anything to do with a rumor that Nvidia could launch an RTX 4070 with GDDR6 memory rather than 6X? Now, this is all coming from various kind of leaks and rumor boards. I wouldn't put anything super solid on this. I'm seeing this at videocards.com, but they're getting the report from BenchLife, where it's saying there's nothing surprising about this speculation since the RTX 4060 Ti already uses an 8104 GPU version paired with GDDR6 memory. So if a 12GB GDDR6 version of the RTX 4070 exists, it's very likely that it would use the 8104 150 chip version of the GeForce RTX 4060 Ti PCB. In other words, if this ended up working out, there would be a lot of 4070s. We'd be getting even more. Videocards.com has helpfully given us this table of all of the various 4070s in existence. We got a 4070 Ti Super on a couple of different GPU dies. You got the 4070 Ti, you got the 4070 Super, you got the 4070, the 4070 original. So again, different GPU dies on those, and then would we be also getting an 8104 based 4070 with GDDR6 rather than 6X? Who knows? We'll have to see what comes of that. But is the DRAM shortages having anything to do with apparently DRAM prices increasing up to 53% in 2024 and another 35% predicted in 2025 as the memory industry delivers record revenue growth? This appears to be related to the AI boom, increasing demand for memory, which then increases prices, and hopefully doesn't mean that GPU prices continue to be not that exciting as we go into the next generation. We'll have to see what happens, what could potentially be exciting, but we'll have to see if anything comes of it, because as new graphics technologies get announced, they don't always end up being adopted, or at least anytime soon. But we are seeing Nvidia showcasing real-time neural material models offering up to 24 times shading speed up. Now, I tried to read through a lot of this, but I've got to say, as I'm not an AI expert, a lot of this kind of went a bit over my head, but a lot of the slides do certainly look impressive as far as the visual fidelity that they're getting. and they are claiming that their work is getting extremely close to reference and better than previous work, and with speed ups compared to traditional technologies. So you can certainly look through all of these posts. Apparently, this new model achieves a complete and scalable system for film quality neural materials, tractable training for gigatexel-sized assets using an encoder, decoders with priors for normal mapping and sampling, and efficient execution of neural networks in real-time shaders. They're showing the cost and quality trade-off of apparently we're not gonna load the image in more detail. Whatever. Anyway, 2 layers with 16 neurons at 3.3 milliseconds, and 3 layers with 64 neurons is 11 milliseconds. And they're saying timings are for native 1080p 1 SPP. Now, again, a lot of this kind of over my head a bit. Feel free to follow my links. They're all in the video description if you want to dive into further detail on this. But as I'm understanding, this looks to be kind of a proposal for a completely different way of dealing with, this type of rendering. So huge changes, if true. Now, I was wondering, is this going to be another one of those technologies that would be an Nvidia-only feature because they're presenting this research? However, when I was looking at the supported hardware in here, I believe I can, where actually is the quote? But it did look like it didn't have to just be NVIDIA only. Here we go. It says that as for what hardware will support neural material models, NVIDIA states that they will leverage existing machine learning frameworks such as PyTorch and TensorFlow, tools such as GLSL or HLSL, and hardware-accelerated matrix multiply accumulate MMA engines on reach GPU architectures such as AMD, Intel, and Nvidia. So it does look like this should support AMD, Intel, and Nvidia rather than just Nvidia, which does make this a lot more interesting, because I think if you hit technologies that don't work on AMD and consoles use AMD and game developers mostly target consoles for game development, then some of this becomes less likely to make a big impact. Whereas if this does end up actually working on and maybe running well on, which we would still have yet to see, AMD and Intel hardware, maybe there would be more interest. I don't know. It says the runtime shader will compile the neural material description into optimized shared code using the open source Slang shading language, which has backends for a variety of targets, including Vulkan, Direct3D 12, and CUDA. So there's a lot going on here. Like I said, a lot of it a bit over my head, but it certainly does look interesting. We'll have to see, like I said, if game developers end up finding it interesting. But anyway, flashbang warning. Intel's getting potentially a class action lawsuit. So it looks like the firm Abington, Cole, and Ellery is currently gathering information and interest for whether people are interested in participating as a class representative in a class action lawsuit against Intel regarding Intel Core 13th, 14th generation desktop processor issues. And they're asking for your information. Again, this will be linked in the video description. So this is, again, in relation to all the various stability issues that we've been reporting on quite a bit at this point. I don't think I have to rehash all of the details on those. But I do have some updated information, which is that apparently Intel is extending their warranties for specifically boxed 14th and 13th gen CPUs by 2 years in light of the instability issues and potentially in light of class action lawsuits. Because when I was reading through a lot of people's responses to this, I'm not a legal expert. Some people at least claiming to be legal experts on Reddit, for example. Who knows what the reality is behind that. We're mentioning that this type of class action lawsuit would be hard to succeed if Intel does follow through strongly on all warranty claims and RMAs and all of that. So if they have a strong response, the class action lawsuit would be less likely to succeed. And then shortly after this, we're seeing Intel extending the warranty for boxed 14th and 13th gen CPUs by 2 years. So I don't know if there's a connection there, or maybe just Intel is finally deciding to do what they probably should have done a while back and extend those warranties when we had all of these problems. That's good. Now notice the word boxed here. So in other words, if you bought, for example, a pre-built system that had a 13th or 14th gen CPU in it, that's not the same thing as the boxed product, which is getting the extended warranty. So there is a difference there. Here's the official statement from Intel regarding this and regarding what you should be doing if you're experiencing issues. So this is the latest information from Intel. Intel is committed to making sure all customers who have or are currently experiencing instability symptoms on their 13th and or 14th gen desktop processors are supported in the exchange process. We stand behind our products, and in the coming days, we will be sharing more details on 2-year extended warranty support for our boxed Intel 13th and 14th gen desktop processors. In the meantime, if you are currently or previously experienced instability symptoms on your Intel Core 13th or 14th gen desktop systems, you have these two options. For users who purchase systems from OEMs or system integrators, Intel is saying to please reach out to the system manufacturer support team for further assistance, not to Intel directly. But if you purchased a boxed CPU, please reach out to Intel customer support for further assistance. And again, they say at the same time, we apologize for the delay in communication, as this has been a challenging issue to unravel and definitively root cause. Whether this is implying they still haven't quite yet definitively root caused it yet, even though they kind of said they did, I don't know, you could read that a couple of different ways. But anyway, so that is the latest from Intel. Now, Intel in generally is kind of struggling right now. We're seeing apparently a horrendous earning call. Intel quarter 2 2024 earnings, a horrendous result with a miss on total revenue, DCAI, gross margin, and EPS. And this is apparently leading to Intel laying off over 15,000 employees and will stop non-essential work. After losses, the chipmaker is cutting $10 billion in costs. So very sad to see that many employees losing their jobs. I've seen some articles reporting numbers as high as 19,000. So whichever number it actually is, it's a lot, and that is unfortunate. Hopefully none of you guys are affected by that. Anyway, yeah, not a good look there. However, we are seeing Intel will be launching their Core Ultra at their launch event on September 3rd. So when we want to find out more about Lunar Lake, it looks like September 3rd will be the date to find out more about it. And we're also seeing that Intel is also, well, this one isn't official, this is more a leak. We're seeing a specs leak for Intel's Xeon 6 Granite Rapid series. Specs leaking up to 128 cores, 500 watt TDP, and 504 megabyte cache. Now, since I report mostly on gaming products and CPUs, I'm not going to dwell too heavily on this big leak, but again, links will be available in the video description if you want to follow up with a bit more there. Now, what I'm curious with all of Intel's woes is if we're about to get even more information coming from Gamers Nexus, because we've seen this tweet from Gamers Nexus recently saying, Intel is unbelievably slimy, multi-part report soon. So, not quite sure exactly what that's going to be about. For example, Gamers Nexus did break some of the via oxidation issue news recently. Perhaps there's more to do with that, more to do with the whole 13th, 14th gen stability issues and how Intel's been handling that. Who knows? But given Gamers Nexus's recent hard-hitting, in-depth reporting, I am certainly interested to find out what they'll be bringing to the table with that. Now, in potentially light at the end of the tunnel news financially for Intel, it looks like there's at least a chance they will be getting Nvidia as a foundry customer soon, likely to produce 5,000 H100 wafers. This is like packaging per month. So apparently that's not set in stone yet, and this is still kind of industry, rumors and discussions coming from my drivers and reported here by WCCF Tech. Now, AMD, on the other hand, is seeing a much more positive financial report, growing data center revenue by 115% as their AI products are taking hold in the market. So good news for AMD financially there. As far as you guys are probably interested in from AMD, the next big thing will be AMD Ryzen 9000 series CPUs, which got delayed, but we still haven't got the official pricing. It's looking like we have a fairly credible leak, but that could still be incorrect with pricing. As far as where this is coming from, it looked like that Newegg and Best Buy briefly posted pricing for these CPUs before taking it down, where it was caught by @Momomo US on Twitter and is now being reported here by videocards.com. Anyway, if we do go by this pricing, I do have some thoughts. There's positives and negatives about this. So this pricing would list the 9950X at $599, the 9900X at $449, the 9700X at $359, and the 9600X at $279. Again, just because this was the pricing leaked early does not mean that even if that is what AMD is deciding to do right now, does not necessarily mean it will be what they actually decide to do on launch day. AMD and other companies have been known to change their pricing up until the very last minute, so we'll see what happens. Now, this is interesting because if you look at it versus the Ryzen 7000 series, all of these are price cuts. So at least compared to launch pricing, and that's the key detail. So the Ryzen 9 7950X launched at $100 more expensive, at $699 instead of $599 here. The Ryzen 9 7900X was $549. This is $449 for the 9900X, so again, $100 off. The 7700X was, I think, $399, and this is $359, so that's $40 off. And then we're seeing $20 off the 9600X compared to the 7600X, which came in at $299. So if this pricing ends up being true, it does mean that the MSRPs are across the board lower when compared to their predecessors with the 7000 series. And a lot of people complained about 7000 series pricing. So from that perspective, this looks pretty positive. From another perspective, though, this could still not look that attractive for people looking to build a system. The reason being, for example, if I wanted to buy a 7600X today, it's not $299. It's under $200, and actually the pricing right now isn't as good as it's been a little while ago, where you could get these actually for, I think I saw them as low as like $170, $160, somewhere around there. And this is across the board. If I wanted a 7950X, I can get one for about $522. If I wanted a 7900X, I can get one for about $359. And if I wanted a 7700X, I could get one for about $290, meaning that the MSRP pricing isn't what the 9000 series will actually be competing against when they launch, when they're competing for system builders. So if we look at it this way, comparing the rumored 9000 series pricing to the current 7000 series pricing, the 7950X will be 15% more expensive. Now, if it ends up being 15% faster, which could line up with what we're seeing in leaked performance numbers, 10 to 15% faster being a reasonable expectation, that one doesn't seem too bad. However, when you look at the 9900X against the 7900X's current pricing, it'll mean that the 9900X is 25% more expensive, and most of the performance leaks that we've seen have not indicated a 25% performance leap. The 9700X against the 7700X's current pricing would be about 24% more expensive for, again, not rumored to be 24% faster. And when you look at the 9600X versus the 7600X current pricing, we're looking at over 40% more expensive. And again, no indication that it will be anywhere near 40% faster. So, as is often the case when a new generation launches, the discounted prices on the previous generation especially if you're looking for the 6-core part to just kind of get in the door on the platform, certainly might end up being more attractive than the launch pricing for the new series, although the new series will then also likely trickle down in pricing, especially as 7000 series dries up. So anyway, just something to keep in mind as you're looking into those CPUs and deciding whether they're the ones to buy. Also, it looks like AMD launched their additional CPUs for the AM4 platform, which is going into its 9th year, with their 5900 XT at $349 and 5800 XT at $249. Whether or not those make sense to purchase at this point, if you're already on AM4, I don't know, guys. I think if I was on AM4 and for a gaming build, I'd be looking at if there's still any good deals on like a 5700 X3D or something like that. But if it's not for gaming, if you're wanting more cores for something and you don't want to buy a new platform, you could take a look at those. Now, in other news, with all these new CPU launches coming out, Newegg appears to be launching a CPU trade-in program, which Tom's Hardware is referring to as having low payouts. However, keep in mind that generally these trade-in programs, we see these with GPUs as well. Newegg offers those, other places do as well. Generally, you're not going to get as good of a deal as you would if you sold it yourself. The idea is that you're kind of getting a worse deal in exchange for convenience, right? So you get some money for your trade-in, you buy the new thing, you get some trade-in value. The idea is to trade hassle for for value versus selling it yourself on the open market. Anyway, so maybe you'd be interested in that. You could at least take a look at what they have on offer. Now, in other CPU-related news, or I guess APU-related news, AMD's Strix Halo APU details, we have more information leaking, where it looks to be twice as big as Strix Point, has a powerful RDNA 3.5 integrated GPU, and can be up to 120 watt TDP, although that comes in various configurations. And where is this information coming from? It appears to be coming from information about ASUS's ROG Flow Z13, which will be a 2025 model. I think if I'm understanding this leak correctly, the thermal engineer for this device published documents about it, which then, since it features Strix Halo, gave us some information about this. I'm really interested to see this because Strix Halo does look like it could be a monster in performance as far as integrated graphics go. So it'll be cool to see how far that can be pushed. We're getting a bunch of, die size information here. I'll become tiny and out of your way if you want to take a look at that for a second. Honestly, I'm not going to dig too far into this at this point because a lot of this information is similar to stuff that I think we've seen before. You're seeing different power configurations and all of that, but looking like it could come in a 55 watt, 85 watt, or 120 watt configuration, and then plus you would add in the memory power to then hit 60 watt, 92 watt, or 129 watt, depending on if you're on the 32 gigabyte or 128 gigabyte memory powers, hitting 65 watt, 96 watt, and 133 watt total memory power configurations and all that. Also interesting that they're comparing this up against an Intel system with a GN21 GPU. GN21 would be like an RTX 4070 mobile class, as I understand it. So does that mean it'll actually be competing in performance with a system on that level? That would be pretty interesting. And here we have listed what we think we know so far based on rumors for this Strix Halo. Again, up to 40 RDNA 3 plus compute units. Really interesting to see what that can do, especially with 32 megabytes of MALL cache for the iGPU and LPDDR5X 8000 memory controller. So really curious to see what ends up coming of that, but let's go ahead and move on to this. I was seeing this at videocards.com that Power Color and Kuro Utoshiko, I just absolutely butchered that, as well as butchered saying butchered because I said butchered. Anyway, whatever. Launch an all-black Radeon RX 7800 XT and 7700 XT series. Now, personally, I like this a lot more than RGB designs. I'm a big fan of make a big black box that has PC stuff in it. So anyway, I like to see all black designs available. So you could take a look at those. We're also seeing the PSVR 2 headset getting a $200 price cut. So coming in at $350 instead of $550, making it a lot more interesting. Also, recently the PSVR 2 did officially get a way to connect to the PC, although that connector costs an additional $60. But it certainly makes it a lot more interesting. Now, I'm still not sure it makes sense as the purchase for a PC headset at that price, but if you were already going to buy one for your console, the fact that it can also connect to your PC now does add in additional value on that. And in the last couple of stories here, I'll say that Sins of a Solar Empire 2 gets an official release date of, looks like August 15th, hitting Steam and Epic Game Store at that date. And it's looking like Avowed might be missing its original release date, getting delayed to early 2025. Apparently, this one doesn't look like that's because of any development woes. Instead, it looks like it's to get more breathing room to get out of a busy release window, where there are supposed to be 4 AAA action role-playing games due in fall 2024, where Avowed was originally going to fall. It was going to be Avowed, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and Dragon Age The Veilguard. Anyways, however, it's also apparently looking like Bloodlines 2 may also be delayed, so apparently that release window might not be as crowded as originally planned. All right, hopefully you guys found the video useful and or interesting. I am still in the middle of a gigantic moving process and clearing out my old house to get it ready to sell so I can afford the new house. So anyway, speaking of which, there's a join button you could click down below to directly support the channel financially. So feel free to click that, and huge thank you for those of you who already did. Totally understand, not everybody's in a position to do so. But also huge thank you to just viewers, subscribers, commenters. You are all beautiful people, and I hope you have an excellent day.